Do animals have souls? For many, the answer seems obvious. The Bible mentions animals as part of God's divine creation, but what truly happens to them after death? Could they have an eternal destiny just like humans? Or are they merely fleeting creatures with no spiritual continuation? If you're ready, prepare to explore the question, do animals have souls? A gentle breeze swept across the green fields of creation. The world was still young, and everything around it pulsed with an indescribable energy. The sky, deep and blue, reflected the gaze of the Creator, who marveled at his work. On the fifth day, God commanded the waters to teem with living creatures, and the birds to soar across the skies. Then, on the sixth day, came the land animals, each according to its kind, and finally, man. The Bible tells us that both animals and humans received the breath of life, but there is a crucial difference between them. In Genesis 2:7, it is said that God formed man from the dust of the earth and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, making him a living soul. In Genesis 1:30, God grants the same breath to the creatures, but without the same emphasis. This suggests that while animals are alive, there is something unique about mankind, the image and likeness of the Creator. Does this make humans incapable of possessing an eternal soul? Some believe that animals act purely by instinct, without consciousness or discernment, but the Bible presents evidence that challenges this view, which may offer clues to the question, what truly happens to animals once their existence comes to an end? If you're enjoying this content, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's return to the video. If animals were mere creatures driven by instinct, with no connection to the divine plan, why are there moments in the Bible when they seem to perceive the supernatural before even humans do? One of the most intriguing accounts is that of Balaam's donkey. As her master traveled along, unaware of the danger ahead, the animal saw the angel of the Lord blocking the road and instinctively swerved. Only after 3 failed attempts and Balaam's anger did God open the donkey's mouth, allowing her to speak and question her master's actions. The fact that God granted speech to an animal raises questions about its spirituality. If animals were only programmed to react to their environment, how could they display supernatural awareness? The very act of speaking suggests that God recognizes in animals a form of existence that transcends mere physicality. Balaam's donkey is not alone in this. Ravens were sent to feed Elijah in the wilderness, a great fish was assigned to swallow Jonah, and lions were kept from devouring Daniel in the den. Each of these events shows that animals are not just cogs in the natural world, they can also play roles in the divine plan. If they were merely biological machines with no spiritual connection, why would God engage with them? The animal's spiritual perception, though mysterious, suggests that their existence may carry a deeper meaning than we realize. Could they possess souls, or are they simply temporary instruments in God's hands? If animals have some form of spiritual connection, as we've seen in biblical accounts, then what is the fate of their spirit? Ecclesiastes 3:21 raises an intriguing question. Who knows if the spirit of the children of man rises and if the spirit of the animals goes down to the earth? This verse suggests a fundamental distinction between the spiritual fate of humans and animals, yet it offers no definitive answer. Some interpret that man, made in the image of God, possesses an eternal soul destined for divine judgment, while the spirit of animals simply returns to the earth. However, this doesn't necessarily mean total annihilation. In biblical theology, the soul of man is immortal, bearing moral and spiritual responsibility, while the spirit of animals appears to be linked solely to earthly existence. This may explain why animals are not mentioned in the context of salvation or the final judgment. However, if they have no soul, Why are they featured in the vision of the restored creation? Prophecies like those in Isaiah describe a future where animals will live in harmony with humans. The wolf and the lamb will lie together. The lion will eat straw like the ox. The flood provides another significant clue. God didn't just save Noah and his family. He made sure to preserve the animals as well. More than that, he established a covenant that included every living creature. If they were irrelevant to God, why would he form a pact involving them? This reinforces the idea that animal creation holds a spiritual significance still unknown to us. If animals possessed a soul similar to that of humans, how could we comprehend the fact that they were offered in sacrifice throughout biblical history? The Old Testament is filled with rituals where lambs, bulls, and doves were slaughtered for the atonement of the people's sins. Does this indicate that animals had no spiritual existence of their own, or that their death symbolized something much greater? The animal sacrifices always pointed to a deeper spiritual reality. In Exodus, the blood of the Passover lamb marked the doors of the Israelites, sparing them from death. Later, in Israel's priestly system, the sacrificed animals were seen as temporary substitutes for human guilt. This concept culminated in Jesus Christ, the Lamb of God, who takes away the sin of the world. If animals weren't spiritually neutral, how could they represent redemption? This question raises a dilemma. The Bible never mentions the need for redemption for animals. The sin and fall of humanity brought suffering to all of creation, but only humans are called to repentance. This suggests that animals do not share the same spiritual condition and therefore do not need redemption. The offering of animals was directly tied to human sin. Their blood was spilled to symbolize purification, but God always made it clear that he wasn't merely pleased by sacrifices, but by a contrite heart. So do animals exist only to free humans from sin? Isaiah describes a future time when predators will live in peace with their prey. The wolf will dwell with the lamb, the lion will eat straw like the ox, and a child will play by the den of the serpent without harm. This vision not only illustrates a world without violence, but suggests that animals will be part of this renewal. If they were mere instruments without eternal value, why would they be included in this future scene? Another intriguing point is the horses described in the Apocalypse. John saw Christ returning, mounted on a white horse, followed by heavenly armies, also on horseback. The language of Revelation is highly figurative, but the recurring references to animals, even in a celestial context, raises the question, would God use representations of beings that have no continuation in eternity? Many wonder whether they will reunite with their beloved pets in eternity. The Bible doesn't provide a direct answer, but if redemption involves the restoration of creation, why couldn't the animals who suffered the effects of the fall be restored as well? The presence of animals in eternity could carry profound spiritual significance. If God initially created them as part of a perfect world, and if the end of the biblical story points to a return to harmony, then animals may have an essential role in God's divine plan. After all, creation was never just about humanity, but about a balance between all of God's works. There were also animals in history that went against God's plan, creatures that sought to create imbalance. The first account of transgression in the Bible involves an animal, the serpent in Eden. The Genesis text suggests that Satan used the serpent as an instrument to deceive Eve. However, the fact that the animal was cursed along with the devil indicates that in some way the creature was also involved in the fall. Does this mean animals can sin? The Bible never suggests that an animal can commit sin or be condemned. Sin is the breaking of a divine command, an act that requires consciousness and free will. Mankind is called to choose between good and evil, but animals do not demonstrate this level of moral decision-making. Another point of debate is whether the predatory instinct in animals is a reflection of the fall or a part of God's original design. In Genesis, before the fall, it seemed that the diet was plant-based for both humans and animals. Only after the fall did death become a reality in the world. This raises the possibility that the predatory behavior is a consequence of sin rather than a feature of the original creation. If animals were to be judged, what would the criteria be? Since they lack moral culpability, there would be no need for condemnation or reward, would there? Well, let's understand better the choices made by animals. The difference between moral choice and instinctive reaction may seem clear at first. Humans make decisions based on values and consciousness, while animals simply respond to stimuli. However, there are moments when this line becomes less distinct. Dogs demonstrate loyalty to the point of risking their lives for their owners. Dolphins protect humans from shark attacks, and elephants mourn their dead. Throughout history, there have been remarkable accounts of animals displaying love and sacrifice. Could this suggest the ability to feel something beyond instinct? If an animal can love, suffer, or show empathy, are these emotions a sign of a soul, or merely chemical reactions in its brain? The intelligence of animals is another intriguing factor. They solve problems, learn and adapt. Ravens use tools, octopuses escape from ingenious traps, elephants recognize themselves in mirrors. God used animals for specific purposes on many occasions. The fact that they participate in the divine plan indicates that they possess some level of consciousness, though it may differ from human awareness. If God is love, justice, and faithfulness, and we see these qualities reflected in animals, does this mean they mirror traits of God? Perhaps the answer lies in how God created them, not as rational beings like humans, but also not as mere machines without purpose. If animals possess emotions, intelligence, and even play a part in the divine plan, what happens to them after death? Most biblical interpretations suggest that upon death, animals return to the dust, with no conscious continuation. The question of whether animals will be recreated on the new earth remains a topic of debate. If God is going to restore the world to its original state before the fall, it is reasonable to think that animals would be part of this renewal. But would they be the same animals that once existed, or would they be new creatures? The Bible doesn't clarify this, but the idea of a world without animal life seems to contradict the harmony and completeness described in the prophecies. If God is love, would he allow such important creatures to be simply discarded? Animals were part of the original creation, and throughout biblical history they have been instruments in the divine will. If their presence has been significant, it makes sense that they might have a purpose in eternity. The final verdict on the soul of animals remains a mystery. The Bible does not declare that they possess an immortal soul like that of humans, but it also doesn't entirely dismiss their continuation. What we do know is that God does not waste his creation, and if he chooses to include animals in eternity, it will be a decision aligned with his justice and love. If you enjoyed this content and want to continue exploring hidden mysteries and biblical stories, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. This helps us bring more videos like this one and reach more people interested in the Bible. Activate notifications so you don't miss the upcoming content, and share this video with friends who may also enjoy it. We'll see you next time.